All right, let's take a look at that. So this is going to be a really difficult lap to keep the car under control, as it seems to be the case in Gen 4, but the smaller these tracks get, the more you're going to feel that power. So there's not going to be a lot of grip this lap, so we're going to make this a second lap. I got pretty close on the first lap, but I got a little bit faster on the second. So for the run-up, I pretty much just go hard on the brake in a straight line and then kind of roll my car up on the top groove. So around like right here. You can be a little lower if you want. Any much higher, and there's not much grip up there for whatever reason. So just rolling it and then partially getting back on the throttle. I would say that 60 to 70 mark is kind of the perfect amount before you start spinning with a lot of wheel input. So remember, the more wheel input you have, the lower your throttle has to be. Oops. So with the wheel inputted this much, I can only be on 60-70% of the throttle. If I had the wheel all the way over here, I could really only be on like half or maybe even less. And then once I get back to around here, that's when I can go full throttle. And we'll see that demonstrated here. So I unloaded a little bit, and that's when I get on that throttle. And then I straighten it out, and that's when I go full throttle. See, like clockwork. All right, so now we're going to go into turn 1. So the key to this lap is going to be hitting the yellow line in both corners. So this is going to lead to a lot earlier turn-ins than you think. I'm aiming right here. I want to get right there, and I want to stick to the yellow. There's nothing about diving deep, big arc, none of that. Because I want to get to the bottom, and I want to roll the corner so I can get off the corner good. So it's a little bit of an arc for sure, but it's not using this whole groove here. I really want to be like on the very bottom, if that, of the dark part. So I'm aiming right at the yellow line with the brake, and I don't let go of the brake until I get to the yellow line, just a little bit before. So remember, you've probably heard me talk about this a couple times before. You want to gas up to partial slightly before you get to the yellow line, because if you wait until you get to the yellow line, you might hit the apron. So do it a little bit before you get to the yellow line, and then that gas can kind of kick you into the right line. So you see I'm kind of wrapping the yellow line here. So that apex, my actual apex in the corner, that happens like 2/3 of the way through, and that's perfect. Because you want to straighten out your exit. And if you apex too early, it's really hard to have a straight exit, because you're kind of going like this with the late apex, you're kind of going like this with the early apex, if that makes sense. So partial throttle, 50%, hold it, slowly raise it, full throttle when your wheel is straight. And then this is crazy. You are going to have a loose condition on the straightaway at full throttle. For hot lap, just deal with it. But for the race, you might want to consider not being full throttle. So I was just dealing with it here. And then make sure you don't get too distracted by wheeling the car on the backstretch, because it's very interesting. But you want to get on the brake early again, 2 into 3. So let me find the place for you. So right there. So whatever you want to use for a marking here, I don't have markings, I just kind of feel it out. So early braking into 3, this one you really want to wrap the yellow line early. So no late apex like in 1 and 2, just because of how the corners are shaped differently. Because there's a wide exit on turn 4, you can get on the throttle earlier. So because you can get on the throttle earlier, you want to get to the yellow earlier. So yellow early. Now there's 2 ways you can approach this exit. You can gas early and slide up the track, or you can hold it for a little extra time and stay bottom. I think gassing it, it's about the same, but I think that it's easier to keep it on the bottom a little longer. So you see here, I don't let it slide up until fairly late. I think like the perfect amount. If you're still on the yellow by the Geico restart zone, you might be a little bit late, but it's still pretty darn good. So that, excuse me, that's a good reference. But you see I was able to carry a decent amount of speed with the line I had still. So let's take a look at that whole lap one more time. No me pausing it for you, and we'll talk it through. So, okay, we're going to get on the brakes early. Aim for the yellow, but at a super late apex. just drag the brake, super, super late apex, gas into the yellow, make a straight exit. Now you're going to get extremely, extremely loose here. So you got to hold on to it. Keep your foot in, excuse me, keep your foot in it, hold on to it. Early braking into 3, wrap the yellow 3 and 4. You can choose to gas up early all the way to the wall or keep it on the yellow a little longer. I kept it on the yellow a little longer. Partial throttle, wheel straight, full throttle. If there's one thing you take from this, do not go full throttle until your steering wheel is straight. All right, let's go to the long run. All right, so we did a little long run here, and I think that we kind of figured it out. So we have 72.81 after 37 laps. So that's not quite as close as what I want it to be, but I figured out what I think is the best line for the middle and late run, which I wasn't doing for a while. So for the beginning, I would say first 10, 15-ish laps. I do still like that bottom thing that we were doing in qualifying. Just really early braking, really smooth off the throttle as well. See, it's not all at once. You kind of just get off the throttle smoothly and just use your brake to get to the yellow line. And then you kind of hook the yellow line. You can throttle up earlier than this, but there's no real reason to, because off of 2, your car is going to be super loose. So if you're trying to carry more speed at the same angle, then it's not going to work out too well for you. And so here's the crazy thing about the straightaway is that you get loose on the straightaway. So towards the end of the run, you might not even be able to go full throttle on this straight. Just be really careful. You don't need to go full throttle here. If you're at 80-90% throttle, you're not going to lose much time, and it's going to make things a lot easier for you. Then 3 and 4, really early braking, hook that yellow. You can throttle up early or late. If you throw up early, it'll probably do more to your right front. I kind of just like hooking that yellow line and making sure that the car has a straight line of exit before I get on the throttle. It really doesn't lose too much considering what you're saving. And again, these really early entries on the short run, get right on the yellow, kind of wait on the car, and then full throttle when your car is straight. Coming off of 2, you don't really want to be full throttle until your car is on the straightaway. Just keep partial until then. Same thing here, we're just holding partial until our car is straight. It really helps us not get loose off the corners, and we're not losing that much time, I promise you. You're helping your tires as well, especially the rears, but we need to worry more about the right front, and I'll show you why. So about like lap 12 or 15-ish, the car starts getting really tight on the bottom of 1, where we'll have to wait a lot longer than we really need to, or it feels like we need to. But like when the car slides up, you just don't get that same rotation that you did early run. So it's a lot slower. Now 3 and 4, this is really the only way for it to work in my opinion. Like you see, I kind of miss it. And because I miss it, it's just so slow getting off the corner. We have to wait for like the same amount of time regardless. You might as well be on the bottom. And so I started messing around with the second lane and realizing that, oh wait, that's pretty good. So I've kind of perfected it towards the end of the run here. Let's go to around lap 25. So now we're entering middle high. We're getting the car kind of turned down the track and then throttling straight off the corner to help us not get loose. And we get loose, but it's almost unmanageable when you're running the bottom lane there. And you have to bog your car down so much, and even with these cars, that running that top middle lane really pays off dividends, and I don't think it's using too much tire. I've tried to go back down here again, and it was just so slow. You have to wait so long until you can get on the throttle when you're running the bottom on old tires. You're just waiting. And yeah, sure, you're probably saving some tire there, but if you start pushing that too much, you see how crazy it gets on the straights. If you start pushing 1 and 2, just overstepping your bounds a little bit, then it's over. So now I went back to the top lane after this. I think I did anyways. I got off the gas really early there. I really didn't need to. But you get the car pivoted, and then you turn down the track. That felt really slow, right? Well, actually, this is going to end up being the same time, even with that really slow entry. And then my next couple laps will show you kind of the potential of this strategy. So we'll take a look at this here. So old tires, really hard to keep it straight on the straightaways, not really even full throttle much. dive it a little bit towards that seam, pivot it down to the yellow, and make a straighter exit than you normally would. And it's a lot smoother. Tires aren't that bad there, and it's a lot quicker. Then 3 and 4, you just want to park it on the yellow. Really just park it on the yellow. There's not much else you can do in 3 and 4 in my opinion. I don't think that the top really works. I could be proven wrong, but from what I was feeling, your best bet's the bottom 3 and 4. But this line of 1 and 2 is like what I think is going to be long run. Enter middle, slow the car, pivot down, and then straight line exit. And again, you can't be full throttle until you're on the straightaway, right? I mean, I'm still partial throttle this whole way, but partial throttle this whole way beats just parking the car on the yellow and trying to get the car to rotate a heck of a lot. You know, it's like I said about the short tracks for ARCA, not just the Gen 4 for ARCA. You want to turn the car when it's at slowest. And if you can pivot the car downward after kind of parking it on the second lane, then that's really good. I don't know what I tried here, but it's probably really slow. So we're going to go ahead to one last corner, or one last lap here. So enter second lane, pivot to the yellow, and drive it off. You don't have to go all the way to the yellow, but as long as you pivot it for a straight line off the corner, that'll be good. And I was lowering my brake bias throughout this run. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. It felt like it didn't matter too much, just because of how much the car compensates with how much power it has. It's like your initial turn-in. It does matter, but it just feels like your throttle control off the turn matters so much more. So, anyways, that's what I got so far on this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below with any questions or whatever. Alright, happy farming.